Hello everyone, welcome back to the Talent 500 YouTube channel, and this is STET interview series. I have created many more videos on the same series, so those links are in the description section. So I would definitely suggest you to go through those videos before coming to this one because all those are interlinked. So yes, so stay with us and let us know your input if you have any in the comment section. Hello folks, today we are going to work on API automation demo script, which we are going to do using REST assured, and we will try to do it in just 15 minutes, right? So what we will learn in this session is how we can quickly create a project, right? Maven project using IntelliJ IDEA, and then we will try to create a script. We will use a open source API called as request.in, which the details about the same I will provide in the comment section, and then we will try to run the demo script also. Okay, so let's start quickly because we have 15 minutes in our hand, right? So let's jump into the first thing. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a Maven project and add the dependencies. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to automate an API, right? And the libraries that we are going to use is REST assured and testng. So the first thing that we need is create a Maven project and add the dependency of REST assured and testng. So let's quickly do that. Okay, so I am creating a Maven project, Maven archetype, right? And I'm going to create a Maven project, and this I'm going to use quick start. Okay, and then create. I'm just creating a Maven project using IntelliJ. Okay, the same thing you can do using your Eclipse also. Any ID is fine. Okay, the name I'm going to do is demo in 15 minutes, right? Create, right? Okay, so the project is created as you can see, and this is the dependencies that has been by default added to our pom.xml, right? That is JUnit. So if I expand this one, this src main test, everything has been created by default because the architect that I have selected is quick test, you remember, right? So now let's go to the pom.xml. So this is the default one that has been added, and what are the new dependency we are going to add is REST assured and definitely the testng part, right? REST assured and testng, correct? So I'm just quickly adding the REST assured and testng dependencies. So here we go, my testng is added, my REST assured is added. Always remember, once you add the dependencies, what you need to do, you need to make sure that those dependencies has been added to your external libraries. For that, what you need to do, you need to just refresh the Maven project. So I'm reloading it. Sync is completed, if you can see over here. So now in my external libraries, definitely those dependencies has been added, correct? If you can see, REST assured, testng both are added. Why two dependencies I'm adding? REST assured for API automation libraries and testng for our writing the test scripts. So now this is the first step that we have done, create Maven project and add dependency. So now what would be the next thing that we are going to do? We are going to write a script, demo script, right, to send a GET request and print the response, right? So for that, what we are going to do, we need to create a new class in src test directory, and then we are going to write a script to send a GET request to the request.in API, right? So let me quickly do that. So the endpoint that I'm going to use is request.in/API/user/1, right? So this is basically the script that I'm going to use, correct? Endpoint is I have already provided here, right? Endpoint, and this is a real-time open source endpoint, right? Or else I cannot show you the demo. So here there is already an class present, so I'm not going to use that. Rather, I'm going to create a new Java class, right? API demo, correct? API demo, and then I'm going to add my test script over here. So when I add it over here, definitely those are compile error because I need to import, right? I have already added the dependencies. That's why I can add the testng, and then I can add the REST assured, and I can add the again here REST assured, right? So see, the same exact one I have added, right? So now if you notice, let me explain quickly what I'm trying to do over here. Here I'm specifying the base URI. Base URI is request.in/API, and this is a real endpoint, correct? But a demo one. And then I am trying to hit a GET request. So those who already know, API has different type of methods like get, post, put, patch. For this 15 minutes demo, we are picking GET request, and then what I am going to do, I'm going to use given, when, then. Inside
what type of method you have and what are the endpoints you are providing, that is going to be provided inside this when given basically takes care of what are the request, what are the additional parameters you need to send in a request. For example, your headers, authorization, all will go in the given. So response I am saving over here just to make sure that we are getting the correct response from the server. I am going to print the body, right? So let me quickly run it. I am executing it. So it is executing. Okay, it got executed successfully. So this is the response that we got from our request. That means the user one detail is George Bluth, and this is the name, and this is the avatar, support, and everything. So this is what you will get as a response when you hit this endpoint. Correct. So now what we are going to do, this is the second phase that we have seen, that how we are going to create a demo script by sending a request and printing the response body. So now let's go to the next one. Then in the next step, what we are going to do, we are going to validate the response status code. Usually in API automation, we validate three important things: the status code, the response body, and sometimes the schema, right? So schema part we will look into maybe some another session, because this is a 15-minute session. We are just trying to go with the basics part. So here what we are going to do, we are going to validate the status code. So to validate the status code, what you need to do, you need to use these two lines over here, right? Here I have written the previous code because the code we have used in the previous step, the same code is going to remain there. Just I am going to add these two steps over here. Okay, see. So what I am doing, whatever response that we have got over here, I am using a method called as get status code, which is provided by rest assured, to fetch the status code from the response, and then I am validating it with 200, because that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting my server to provide me the status code as 200, right? Let me quickly run it. See, our test case is passed. Test passed. So just to cross check, let me try with 202. If I type 202, I should definitely get a error message, right? And what should be error message? Unexpected status code. See, always try with a negative scenario when you are writing your first demo script, because maybe the script is not correct and it will give you always the success one, right? So pay attention over here. Always try to have a negative scenario ready so that you can validate that okay, the things are working. So until now what we have done, we have added the required dependencies in form.xml, created a class called API demo, added a demo script by using a open source but valid endpoint, that is request.in/api/users/1, and then we have validated the status code, right? Here we can there is a little scope of improvement. Instead of adding a new variable in status code, you can just use the response.get status code directly also over here, right? Correct. So if I execute it, it will work the same way, right? Because we don't have to increase the number of lines. The more clearer the code is, it will be easy for you to execute and maintain in future. Okay, so let's move on to our next one. That is the next slide, right? So validate the response status code we have done. Now what we are trying to do, we will try to do that we will validate the response body. So whatever response body we are getting, we will try to validate that. So how we are going to do that? We are going to use dot path, which is a very common one, right? And we will try to validate. So let me tell you how we can do that. Always remember, when you are validating a response body, before that you should validate the status code. Correct? So now quickly what I am going to do, I am going to create a new method, right? Verify response body, right? This method is going to remain same. Here I am doing a quick changes, right? The specify base URI, I am going to take it as a class label. Why? Because we are using it again and again, right? So whenever you are using it again and again, you can keep it in the top at the base URI, right? Always remember. But here we are just preparing for demo, that's why I'm not keeping it. That's why we have to repeat it again and again, right? Here I'm going to add the last step, that is how we are going to validate the response body. So I'm copy pasting it over here. So what we will do, you remember the response we have got, right? Data, ID, one, email, George, something like that, right? So now I want to validate that the email is george_bluth_request.in or not, right? So now instead of validating that, we will just validate that the email ends with request.in. Correct? Because that's what we are expecting. The email ends with request.in or not. So what I am going to do, I am going to use response, the same response that we are getting, response.path data.email, because this email ID and everything is inside this data. So I'm using data.email. So if I would have tried to validate the first name, I would have written data.firstname. Those are all JSON path. Okay. I'm using dot path data.email, which I'm expecting will return georgebluth.request.in, and then I'm going to validate that the email ends with request.in or not. Correct. So let me try to quickly execute the same. Run. So it will execute two test case: send get request pass, send response body also pass. That means it got executed successfully. Just to give you a better view, what we should do, we should print this one over here. I will print this email, correct, so that it would be easy for you folks to see it, correct. And I'm just going to add some star, right, to differentiate. That's it, correct. Let me execute it again. See, this is the output. So this ends with request.in. Got it, right? So how quickly we have done this one. Okay, awesome. Let's move back to our last step because we are running out of time, right? So the next and the last one is how to send headers with the request. So headers are very important. Many of the time when you send a request, you may need to send some authorization, you may need to send some content type, right? So in that case, what you can do, headers will always go with the given section, right? So if you want to add headers, then you will add it over here after the given part, correct. After the given part you need to add the header. Let me execute it again. So here this is open source endpoint, so it's fine when you send it, right? It won't create any problem if I send this bearer token or anything. But if when you use a real-time API in your project, then you have to send a valid bearer token over here instead of just a demo one, right? So what we have tried to do, we have tried to send the get request, validate the status code, then we have validated the response body, and then we have checked how we can send the header along with the request. I hope this 15 minutes of time has teach you enough to just start how you can work with rest assured, right? And definitely I feel it definitely looks easy for you folks because I have tried to explain in easy terms. Stay tuned, post in the comment that if you like it or not. If yes, then I am going to create a next one in another 15 minutes. So our main agenda is we will try to give you a lot of content in small time, so you don't have to waste time watching a lot of videos, right? Okay, so just to add a couple of points before we wrap this one. Okay, so when you use the script, just change this one to verify status code, right? Because here we are verifying the status code, correct, and here we are verifying the response body, verify response body, correct, and here we are covering the header part also, correct. So I'm writing a quick description over here. Always remember, writing a quick description is very helpful, right? Sending request with header and validating the response body, correct. Similarly you can write it over here, right? Description is equal to sending get request and validating response status code. Okay, so here I'm going to add one more small thing, okay, which will help you when you will work on the same. So when you execute these two test cases, correct, you can also remove those system.out, because these things we have used just for reference, just to show you folks during the demo. But after that you can definitely remove those. And if you want to validate maybe first name or something like that, then also you can go with assertions, right? You can in fact use assert equals also, right? I have just shown you how to validate email. Similarly you may want to validate the first name. Maybe you want to check that the first name is George or not. Then what you will do, response dot path, and then what is the path I'm going to use, data dot first underscore name. And what is my first name? My first name is George, right? And the expected one is I'm going to write it over here as George. Similarly you can validate the last name, but I would definitely suggest you folks, when you try by looking into the video, you try with last name or maybe some another value, support, something like that, correct. So if I will execute now, I am expecting that this should pass, right? and I am validating here both email and, see, it got passed, right? Email and first name, both I am able to verify. Now here is a trick. If I want to validate support, then what I should do, this URL is the correct or not, then I am going to use support after data, right? Data dot support dot URL, correct? Actually you don't have to use data because our this one is getting completed over here, so you can just use it with data.support.url, right? If you want to validate the support part. Similarly you can validate this text also, correct? So the task I'm going to give you is, when you will try to validate, don't validate email or first name, rather try to validate either support.url or text, or maybe the last name, okay, which we have not covered, so that you will try to explore that how basically the json.path works, right? In the next session we will take another 15 minutes where we will explore more towards how you will validate using Pojo, correct? That would be more interesting one, correct? Okay, till then, take care, bye bye.
I hope you guys have liked the session, and I have created a lot of series on SDET, so do go and check those out. And please subscribe to the Talent 500 YouTube channel, so that next time when we prepare a interview series, you guys will be notified about it. Till then, take care, bye bye, and do remember, if you have any doubt, put it in the comment section.